while I have been working in the AI productivity space for a long time, the world is changing so quickly that I'm not sure I can call myself an expert. And so I hope you'll see the spirit of this session is that we're all trying to learn and experiment and adapt, and but no one should feel comfortable as though they are an expert. Nor should no one feel too intimidated to start learning, right? We're all somewhere on the spectrum of expertise, and we can all do more. So here's what I was thinking for the session. I wanted to start with a 2 to 3 minute discussion on what is an AI agent from my perspective, because everywhere you go on the internet, you see a different opinion on the technical definition or the practical definition, or one of the, I post a lot about AI agents that I've created, which may or may not be AI agents depending on your technical definition. And there's always a couple of angry posts in the comments like, this is not really an AI agent, this is a workflow. So I want to spend a couple minutes just sharing my perspective on that topic. Then the next thing I want to go into is how you generate ideas of where an AI agent could be useful for you. I'm going to go through some of the techniques I use, both in understanding what AI is good at today across a variety of domains, and what are some common patterns of agents that I build. And then third, we'll actually build one together. And I really want everyone to do it with me. That's the best way to experience it. So I'll go at a pace that every single person can follow along and end up with a working agent by the end of that portion of the session. And yeah, feel free to add questions or comments in the chat. I may answer them right away, or I may hold them to the end, depending on what makes sense given the topic. Okay, so first, what is an AI agent? What is an AI agent? The most commonly agreed upon technical definition is that an AI agent is an autonomously working AI system that, given a goal and a set of tools, both decides how it's going to approach that problem, the flow control of the task, and actually takes action itself in those tools. So you can think of, for any problem you want to solve, like let's say you hire an intern and you want them to write a new blog post for you. There's sort of two parts, at least, of doing that task. There's some sort of planning part where they write out the flow chart of what it takes to write a blog post. And then there's the actual typing execution. So for example, the flow chart for a blog post might look like: research the gaps on our website. What blog posts should we be writing that we've not written? What have our competitors written? What is ranking well in our space? What are keywords we may want to hit? Then there's maybe a set of 6 candidate ideas, and there's an analysis step that filters down to which candidate idea we want to pursue. Then there's a brief writing step, then there's a draft writing step, then there's a draft editing step, then there's a posting step. And so in a true AI agent, you would not describe this flowchart necessarily up front. You would just say, hey, John, your job is to write a great blog post to add to our blog. Go do it. And the AI agent has this goal, and it has a set of tools. The tools could be do web research, write documents, write blog posts, and then it would figure out how to use those tools to achieve the goal. And I actually don't think that technical definition is practically that important. And I don't think that's how people are referring to AI agents today. So let me tell you how I'm referring to AI agents and how I think most people are referring to AI agents and will continue to refer AI agents. There's basically, from what I've seen, 3 paradigms by which we interact with AI tools. The first is it's a chatbot. It's an interactive text-based conversation, much like texting a friend or writing on Discord or Slack with a friend. We've all experienced this. I'm guessing everyone in the audience has used ChatGPT and used Claude and used Gemini and used Grok. And so one modality is the chatbot. We're having a conversation. We can go back and forth. You can use it as a sparring partner, a content creator, a researcher, anything. But the modality is chat interaction. The second modality, you have to be there. You have to be there typing. It's not going to go off and do work. You have to be there typing and talking to it. The second modality is a copilot. That means you are using a tool to get something done, and there is a Clippy-like AI assistant that is helping you achieve your goal. Often this is in a side panel or a little modal that pops up from the bottom right. For example, if you use Cursor to write code and you use their Copilot for auto-completion or asking questions about your code base, or if you use Google Docs and you see those super annoying Gemini suggestions come to the right, like, do you want me to summarize this doc that you just wrote? Those are a Copilot modality of interaction. And then the third modality of interaction is what I call an AI agent, which is an AI is doing something automatically on my behalf behind the scenes without me needing to directly interact with it in either the form of a chatbot or in the form of a copilot. So that use case I mentioned before, an AI agent, let's say I want it to run completely autonomously. Every time we post a new YouTube video on our channel, I want my AI agent to automatically create a blog post, a LinkedIn post, a tweet, and a newsletter campaign promoting that YouTube video. And I want it to do all of that on its own, without me having to go to a chatbot and talk to it, without having it be the in-product copilot in my blog writer. It is doing that work autonomously. The reason I think that practical definition is, I think there's two reasons why that practical definition is the right one and the most important one. Number one, we all have a mental model for delegating work to another person. We've all either been hired or had interns or had contractors we work with, and we have a known kind of contract for how we delegate work to another person. We say, here's your goal, and then the reason I think that technical definition of like, is the flowchart defined by the AI or is the flowchart defined by the human? I don't think that technical point really matters because it's always a spectrum. Think about when you've worked with an intern or hired an intern. If it's a very junior intern, you tell them exactly every single step to do. First, do this research, then write this brief, then write this draft, then post it. Check in with me at every single step. If it's a very experienced senior contributor, you would just say, go figure out how to make our blog better. But then there's an entire spectrum in between, depending on, there's this management concept from Andy Grove, task relevant maturity, how much experience that person has, how good they are at a specific task. Depending on their task relevant maturity, you might delegate more of the flow control to them or more of the flow control you would specify upfront. That's the same when we're working with an AI agent. And so for me, what practically matters is an AI agent can do work for me behind the scenes automatically that interacts with my tools in the same way that I may have previously had to hire a person or a contractor to do that work. And I don't act, and some of the things that I call AI agents will be technically workflows or technically agents or technically automations or some combination of the above. But I think that distinction is gonna matter less and less. So I have about 250 AI agents working for me. Most of them are in marketing because that's one of the primary components of my job right now. But I also have some for HR, have some for finance, have some for sales, have some for customer support, have some for customer success. And so I'm not sure that everyone should get to 250 right now because not everyone will have a role exactly like mine where I'm doing a little bit of many functions. Not everyone will be as incentivized to use this tool as I am because I'm building the tool. But my challenge to everyone here is that I think you should all have 100. Like that should be the goal you should be aiming for. And so when I meet people and they're like, I just can't think of any ideas of where I could use an AI agent, that's what I want to address in the next 15 minutes. I want to get your mind spinning with tons of ideas, and then I'll show you how to build one. Before we go into that, any questions about chatbots versus co-pilots versus agents, or my definition of agents or the technical definition of agents? I'll pause there for a minute. Okay, let me share a few slides that I hope will be useful. Okay, so the first thing, can everyone see my screen, by the way?
Yes.
Andrew, this is a great question. This is another reason why I think Andrew asked, when you say autonomously with no interaction, do you really mean no interaction, or do you interact with them in some capacity, either giving them work up front or interacting throughout? And I think this is another area where there's a very important spectrum. In some cases, some of my agents work 100% autonomously. They trigger automatically based on some event in the outside world or based on the passage of time. They do their job and they send it to me. Many of my agents have one or multiple human in the loop steps. For example, anytime I have an agent that is constructing an email that I'm going to send to a customer, I review it. I never have an AI agent. That's for me, that's a red line. I never automatically send an email to a customer without reviewing it first. I have AI draft most of my emails, but always review before I send it out. Same thing. I never post content on LinkedIn without having reviewed it first. Sometimes, for some of my agents, it's a very light review where I usually just hit approve. For some of my agents, I really have to go through and substantially edit it. And so within an agent, though they have the capability to work fully autonomously, in practice, almost always you want some sort of human in the loop interaction to make sure that they're doing work that matches your standards. Okay, so the first thing I think you need to really wrap your mind around to start to come up with ideas for AI agents is, what is AI good at? And I'm going to have a little cheat sheet at the end. And I think there are some things that we've all experienced and know AI is good at, and some things that I think we haven't been using enough, because most of us so far, my impression, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're using AI to do tasks that we would have otherwise done ourselves, but AI is saving us time. For example, extracting information from a PDF, or summarizing a 50-page meeting transcript into a one-page note, or doing a little bit of upfront research before we're meeting with someone. And those are great use cases. AI is very good at that, but AI is also good at synthesis, at analysis, at grading and coaching. And so I want to give you my sort of full spectrum of things AI is good at, with 3 examples of each. And these are like roughly in ascending order of kind of like going up the competency chain, but not totally. Okay, the first thing AI is good at, and this was the first practical application of AI I saw across many, many small businesses, is extraction. You get an invoice sent to you over email, you want to extract the amount and due date, and write it into a spreadsheet. You get driver's license photos as part of your certification process, and you want to extract the mailing address from that driver's license. You have a set of competitors, and every month you want to check their web pages to extract the prices. AI, every single AI model out there, every single LLM is very, very good at extracting information from even very, very large PDFs. That's number 1, extraction. Number 2, another one that most of us have tried is summarization. This 1-hour meeting will probably have a roughly 50-page PDF as the transcript, but you might want to have show notes or a 1-page brief. You might have a 10-minute YouTube video that you want to summarize into a description and chapters. I have several agents that do summarization for me to process, larger volumes of information more efficiently. The third is classification. This is probably the most important use of AI that long predates LLMs. Is an email spam or not spam? Are you likely to watch this YouTube video or not? And it turns out that LLMs have made classification possible for a class of tasks that were very hard to do previously, especially natural language-based tasks. So you can now use an LLM to classify whether something is a cold sales email or an email you should pay attention to, who on the team should approve a given request depending on the area of that request, whether a lead is qualified for a demo or not. With several classification agents running. The fourth is a special one that I want to talk about for a moment, which is content creation. This one I want to talk about a little bit extra because it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, content creation is one of the first use cases most of us try with ChatGPT. Write this email for me, write this document for me, write this blog post for me. And we've all now seen the M-dash, the AI slop, the bad reputation that you can get if your work is too obviously AI. And so I don't want to suggest that AI agents should immediately replace all of your content creation tasks with no human in the loop. But if you do a good job with the prompt, if you do a good job with the examples of your writing style, if you do a good job with the use case you're describing, the use case selection for something that's appropriate for AI, it's amazing. So for example, one of my favorite general category here is content repurposing. I've already got the YouTube video, write a social post in the style of my other social posts based on this YouTube video. I've already written 20 client proposal documents in the past, write a new one based on the transcript of this new client I met. I've already written 50 video scripts, write a new video script based on a brief. These work really, really well. The ones that don't work well, if you go into ChatGPT and say, write a blog post on the top 10 AI automation tools, don't be surprised if you get AI slop from that, because it's a generic prompt that's not going to give it nearly enough information about what you're trying to accomplish, what your writing style is, any unique and differentiating insight. And so content creation is incredibly powerful, but it's the case with AI where it's most garbage in, garbage out. Like you have to really give it a good prompt and good meta prompting. And to your question, Luis, yes, prompting and meta prompting are important, But even more than prompting and meta prompting is giving the right examples. Because what I've found is you can spend 10 hours writing the best prompt you can in Claude, and if you don't give it any actual examples of your writing, it will not be able to match your voice. And so I've actually, as I've gone deeper and deeper into content creation, I actually spend less time prompting and more time just curating my examples. Because if you curate the 10 best blog posts that you're most proud of, like the AI will infer, what your writing style is and what your goals are based on that. Okay, next one. Synthesis. This is a really cool one that I don't see many people use, and that I want you all to go back and find an example for this in your work, like as soon as you start work, whenever that is, today or Monday. Here's one of my favorite ones. Every day, I meet with 5 or 6 customers, and at the end of the day, I have a synthesized insight report sent to me from those customer calls. It includes what are the industries, what were the use cases people cared about, are there any quotes that indicated they like our product? Are there any quotes that indicated they didn't like our product? Were there any competitors named and mentioned? Were there any specific points about how we compare to NN in this capability, or how we compare to Zapier in that capability? Were there any other adjacent tools they mentioned? Were there any frustrations they mentioned? This is absolute gold, because from these insights from customer calls, that's how I come up with all my ideas for LinkedIn content. And that's also how we come up with most of our product roadmap. We see what people are complaining about, and then we come up with product ideas to fix it. Another idea, another common use case. Every day, I get a synthesis of all the support issues that have come in over email and over Slack. Every month, I do an analysis of all of our competitors and get a market overview. And sometimes I make this analysis specific to like what go-to-market channels are working for our competitors. And so, for example, through this AI agent, I learned like, wow, N8N is doing really, really well with influencer marketing. I don't know, for those of you who are familiar with the space, I'm sure you've seen N8N come up on LinkedIn or on YouTube. They're doing a great, great job of finding influential voices in AI and then sponsoring them to make videos. Gumloop is doing a great job on Twitter. Gumloop is all, if you're on Twitter, you've seen Max from Gumloop. He's great. He's plugged into like the Greg Eisenberg network and that whole sort of like Twitter startup community and the YC community. They're doing well with there. Zapier is, of course, the content machine. They're making videos, they're making blog posts. And so my AI is always kind of looking out for like what go-to-market strategies are working for our competitors, and then trying to analyze, like I'll get to analysis in a second, but like which of those would work for us and which of those would not work for us based on our brand and our positioning and the way we approach go-to-market. So synthesis, super valuable. Next, this is one that many of us are doing, which is research. So I'm sure we've all used a deep research product, either in ChatGPT or Perplexity or Google Gemini. And those are good for like one-off, deep, as the name implies, deep research use cases. But there are also a lot of shallower and simpler research use cases that you might want to kick off very frequently. For example, every time I meet with someone, my AI researcher automatically finds a dossier on them and their company. Every time we're made aware of a new competitor, I have my researcher go off and figure out what are their prices, what are their features, what are people saying about that. Every day, I have my researcher going out and finding news articles on topics that are relevant to me and just surfacing them to my attention. And so there's some overlap between the use cases you're probably using ChatGPT for or deep research for, but the goal here is to identify use cases where you want research to happen frequently and automatically on your behalf. Let me quickly answer the 2 questions in the chat. One from Jan about which AI recorders work with agents. You mentioned that Fathom does not, unfortunately. I have great news on that front. Fathom's API is in beta testing. We're in the beta. We just got access to the documents, and so you will be able to use Fathom with other tools very soon. Fireflies has a good API that we see a lot of people interact with. Circleback doesn't have, Circleback can send webhooks to any automation tool. So Fireflies, Fathom, Circleback, those are the 3 that we see most are well integrated. If you use Granola or Otter or TimeOS, this market is crazy. It's got so many options. If you use any of those, the best you can really do is have your AI agent plug into the email summary or pull the data out of Notion, because many of those products have a one-to-one sync with Notion. Hope that answers your question there. And Luis, this is a great question. Is there such a thing as making your agent do too much? When should I split tasks into multiple agents? This is one of the reasons I have 250. I believe in having very small, targeted, simple agents that do a specific thing. When it's more modular, it's way easier to debug. It's way easier to control which of them is working when. And so a lot of people poke fun at my LinkedIn post because they're like, oh, so simple. That agent only does one thing in 3 steps. And that simplicity is by design. I want my agent to do one thing and do it really well, make it really easy for me to debug it. And so I'm going to show you some examples of the typical simplicity I have in my agents. Then when you have 2 simple agents, you can always build an agent above them that coordinates the two simple agents, but that modularity makes it so much easier to build and debug. Especially, our target audience at relay.app is less technical folks who aren't comfortable writing code and probably don't have a deep background in making 100-node workflows in N8N. And so we really try to optimize for 3 to 6 step agents that are trying to do one thing really well. Okay, let me keep going. Got a couple more capabilities to highlight. This is another one that I think people are not doing enough, which is analysis. Like you've seen people tweet about this where it's like, I uploaded all my sales data to ChatGPT and it magically told me the perfect strategy. Like, I don't believe that. I think that's BS. But after a back and forth conversation, I actually do believe that you could get some really good insights based on a spreadsheet of sales data from ChatGPT. And again, I do much simpler analysis. Every week, give me a report on how many new paid customers we add and what their plan distribution was, and any observations about their domains or their geographic patterns. So for example, we realized like, whoa, we are like way overrepresented in the Czech Republic. And we realized that we have a couple really good partners in the Czech Republic who run a bunch of educational workshops using Relay. And that was cool because I reached out to them and we're like, oh, thank you so much for doing these, workshops. Here's some free accounts. But that we wouldn't have probably surfaced that insight if we didn't have this AI automatically analyzing our sign-up data. Similar to the synthesis use case I mentioned before, identifying pain points across customer calls and analyzing them and suggesting changes to our roadmap. And then, yeah, again, analyzing the marketing campaigns of competitors. So like, why do my LinkedIn posts perform way better than Wade's from Zapier, even though he has a way bigger audience? I have some opinions on that, but my AI has some opinions on that on that too, which we can talk about in a moment. But I have an AI that's always analyzing what others are doing and making suggestions of what might make sense for us. I think this is the last one or second last one, grading. Scoring an applicant that's applied for a position. Grade the quality of your emails and docs. Score the renewal likelihood of an existing customer. It's not just classification, but it's providing a score, grading, a confidence score with some rationale for it. And then last but not least is coaching. This is super cool and it actually works. Like, we just set this up for a customer last week where they have a couple of junior reps who have been struggling, and rather than just fire them or put them on a PIP, they gave them each an AI coach that reviews all their sales transcripts at the end of each day, compares those transcripts with the transcripts of more experienced, successful representatives, and automatically gives them a 1-page coaching report. Like, oh, in this call, you should have done this. In this call, you should have done that. It's actually amazing. It gives everyone, a $500 an hour coach, but for free, or basically for free for a couple cents a day. This is what led to my breakthrough on LinkedIn. Honestly, I've been posting on LinkedIn for a year with no traction at all. And then finally, I built this little AI coach that was like, hey, can you tell me like how I can get better at this? So I'm not just banging my head against the wall with these crappy posts for another year. And it told me a couple post formats that I thought would work well for me. And I, of course, then modified them. But that's what led to, in the last 6 months, I've grown from 5,000 to 48,000 followers, 47,000 followers on LinkedIn, and then coaching new hires, on Interaction. So that's what AI is good at. So I would recommend that you all take this cheat sheet and like put it physically somewhere. And so anytime you're doing work throughout the day and you're like, it would be nice if I had one of these 9 things happening for me, like, take the leap, go try to build a simple AI agent to do it, see how far you can get. And it won't work every time. I would say roughly 70% of my ideas have worked. And the other 30% haven't for whatever reason. The AI didn't have access to the data it needed, or it couldn't interact directly with the tool, or the model wasn't quite good enough for the task I was trying to, like, here's one that failed. I went down this deep rabbit hole a few months ago of trying to fully auto-generate all of our tutorial videos. because right now I record all of our tutorial videos and it's super time consuming. Yeah, I'll share the slides afterwards. I actually have a video presentation of this as well that I can share. And it was super time consuming. So I tried to push the limit of like, how far can I take AI in automating our tutorial videos? Here's what it could do, and here's what it couldn't do. It could suggest the next topic based on looking what our customers were doing. It could write a script for that topic based on the scripts of my previous tutorials. It could auto-generate credible sounding audio in my voice using my personal 11 Labs trained audio model. It could not create video of me. The digital twins that I tried just weren't good enough. It didn't look like me. It didn't feel like me. It could not automatically click around the screen and make the workflow. It could automatically make the YouTube description and split them into trappers. It could not automatically make a good thumbnail. It could automatically write a good post promoting the video. And so I only found that through trial and error. And I was like, oh yeah, for the video task, it turns out I can do maybe 60% of it with AI. And for now, the rest of the 40% I have to do myself. But I'm going to revisit all those other components, every few months to see if the technology has improved to the point where I can automate more of the process. And so the last thing I want to show you before we dive in and start building is the 3 really common patterns of agents that I create for myself. Number 1 is the simplest, it's the most used, it's the classic if this then that pattern. If you've used IFTTT, if you've used Zapier, if you've used any automation tool, you're familiar with when an event occurs, do something in another tool. This is just a slightly modified version of that pattern with AI in the middle. Sometimes I call it the AI sandwich. So for example, when a new user signs up on our website, automatically research them and qualify them as a lead with AI, and then write them into our CRM. Or when a new email is received, automatically analyze whether it's a cold sales email, and if it is, mark it as spam or something. So this is a super common pattern. When event happens either in our corpus or in the outside world, when a new YouTube video is posted on our competitor's channel, when a new news article hits on TechCrunch, there are all sorts of these sort of like if this then that patterns where you want your AI to automatically take action on your behalf. The second pattern, which is really good for these synthesis and analysis use cases, and we're going to do this one in the demo, is a recurring pattern. Wake up every day, week, month, wake up every so often, go find some information in the world, use AI to synthesize and analyze it, and then send it out in some way. So for example, every day, look up all my customer calls, get the transcripts, synthesize the insights, and send to me over Slack. Or the use case we're going to build in just a moment is every week, look at the founder CEO of our top competitor, gather all their posts from LinkedIn, analyze what we think it means about their priorities based on what they're posting on LinkedIn. We're all going to build that together in 2 minutes. That's the recurring pattern. Number 3, preparation. When something is about to happen, look up some information, process it with AI, and do something with it. Classic example that I use for myself. When a meeting's upcoming, look up the person's LinkedIn profile, write a personal dossier on them, and send it to me over email. Another example of this would be when a customer's renewal date is coming up. Look up whether they're likely to renew based on their product usage data and their support tickets, and handle your QBR, your renewal conversation accordingly. Or when you have a conference coming up in a month, like you're only going to get out of that conference as much as you put in. So go research who's going to be there and who you want to meet with. So that's the preparation pattern. So with that, I'm going to stop the slide presentation. And I'm going to pause for questions before we dive in and start building something together. Any questions? All right, let's build. Okay, so unsurprisingly, because I am the founder of relay.app, we are going to be using relay.app for this workflow, but this is not supposed to be an ad for relay.app, so you could totally do the same thing in Zapier or Make or anything. You should totally try out all the different tools. But if you haven't yet, go to relay.app and make a free account, and then you're going to meet me on the new workflow screen. I'll give everyone 10 seconds to get there. You're going to meet me on a screen that looks like this. And Bala, I'll answer your question in the meantime. I probably spend about 10 hours per week building and tweaking my agent. And a good chunk of that is tweaking the ones that are already working, because these are not set it and forget it. It's not set it and forget it. So anyone who claims to you like, oh, I'm just going to build you an AI agent to do X and then you're going to use it, or I'm going to sell you an AI agent to do X and it's going to work perfectly every time. I don't know, maybe they're better at it than I am, but that has not been my experience. My experience is like, you build a first draft of it, you iterate, and then eventually you get to the thing that's kind of running on autopilot. I realize I'm sharing the wrong tab. Sorry. Share the correct tab. Okay. Can you all see my relay.app tab where at the top it says build with me LinkedIn tracker? And then can you just give a thumbs up if you're there with me, if you've been able to successfully create a free account and get through onboarding. Again, everything we're going to do here is going to totally work on the free tier. I'm not going to ask you to pay me money for attending this session. Though I'd love it if you would convert to being a paying customer once it's delivered enough value. Okay, let's get started. Let me just quickly reiterate the use case we're going to build today. We're going to build a recurring pattern that every week is going to go look at the LinkedIn posts of the founder or CEO of our top competitor. It's going to pull down their recent posts and write an AI analysis with anything that is pertinent to us about their strategy or content that is performing very well, or themes that we may want to consider talking about. And so every AI agent starts with a trigger. If you've used Zapier, if you've used IFTTT, you know how to set up triggers. And there's a few different types of trigger that I'll show you quickly. So you're going to press, do you see like the top middle of the screen, there's a blue button that says add trigger. I'm hovering over it right now. Press that button. When you press that button, you'll see a panel slide out. Oh, sorry. When you're in the product, make sure to hit the new workflow screen. And then what I wrote at the top, build with me LinkedIn tracker, I just type that in manually. That's not like a place you can get to in the app. You'll just create a new workflow and then you'll type the title of it, whatever the title is that you want at the top. You can call it LinkedIn tracker, you can call it whatever you want. Okay. And so there's a bunch of different trigger types that we mentioned in the patterns discussion, but in this case, we're going to select the third one down, scheduled. It says start runs on a schedule. And then within scheduled, we're going to select the first option to start a single run on a schedule. We can talk about batch use cases separately, but in this case, we just want to do a single run. So you're going to get a screen that looks like mine, where it's going to basically, this is a very simple trigger configuration. You just need to configure two things. How often is this scheduled thing going to happen? And when is it going to start? And so in my case, I'm going to say, I want to do this weekly, and I want to do it first on Monday, June 2nd. And you can configure it to weekly, to daily, to monthly, whatever you want. You can configure it to whatever day of the week that you want. But you can see that the way mine is configured, it's going to run weekly on a Monday, and the first instance is going to be June 2nd at 8 a.m. PST. Can you give me a thumbs up if you've got your trigger set up like this, or on whatever cadence you want for this use case? I'll give folks a few more seconds. So remember, in the recurring pattern, every day, week, month, next step, find information. Go look up stuff in the outside world. And so in this case, we want to look up posts on LinkedIn. So press add step, and then you'll see a step menu pop up from the right, which is conceptually similar to the trigger menu. But instead of these being the moments at which AI will wake up and start working for you, these are the actions that AI can take on your behalf. And so some of those are actions in apps, like sending an email or writing a document. Others will be AI actions. Others will be web scraping actions. In this case, we want to get a person's posts from LinkedIn. So I'm just going to type LinkedIn in text. Your cursor by default will be in that search box when you open that panel to the right. Just type LinkedIn. Once you've typed LinkedIn, you'll see the awkwardly named get LinkedIn person posts as like the 7th item down. It's get LinkedIn person posts differentiated from LinkedIn company posts. We should probably call it Get LinkedIn Posts for a Person, but that's more wordy. So click Get LinkedIn Person Posts. Give me a thumbs up when you've gotten to the screen that looks like mine, where Get LinkedIn Person Posts. You have a panel on the right to build that out. Okay, great. So for this step, there's one very important thing we need to specify, which is the LinkedIn URL of the person whose posts we want to pull down. Now, you go on LinkedIn and find whoever's posts are interesting to you. I'm going to pull in Wade Foster, CEO of Zapier. Great guy, by the way, because those are the posts I want to track at the moment. So I'm going to go to LinkedIn. I'm going to search for Wade Foster. There he is. Ooh, I'm catching up to him in followers. And I'm going to go to enter manually. And I'm going to paste in Wade's LinkedIn URL. But feel free to use Wade or use me or use whoever else you want to analyze the posts of. I see a quick question in the chat about credits. Retrieving posts on LinkedIn is an operation that costs credits in relay.app because we have to use an underlying service provider to fetch that data. A typical LinkedIn person post request, I think, is 7 credits, and you get 500 for free per month on our free tier. So we'll be way under the free tier limits in this demonstration. Can you give me a thumbs up, quick thumbs up if you got a LinkedIn profile URL in there in the profile URL category text box? Cool. So now, if we're running this every week, getting 50 posts is kind of overkill. So we're going to get 5 posts. John, it would be 7 credits for the whole operation, not per post. I want to only pull down 5 posts because I want to only analyze the most recent posts. I don't want to give my AI a bunch of redundant or out-of-date information to analyze. So I'm going to get 5 posts. And last, I just need to set this quick error handling parameter. If no posts are found, I'm going to continue without a result. So get your step looking like mine. You've got a profile URL at the top. You're returning a maximum of 5 posts. If no posts are found, continuing without a result. And give me a thumbs up when yours looks like mine. Okay, so the AI has woken up. It has gone and fetched the posts that we've needed to analyze. Now it's time to actually do the analysis. And so we're going to add another step, and this time we're going to add an AI step. So press the plus button again. And this time we're going to select the third item down. The third item down, AI. And then within the AI submenu, we're going to select the first item, prompt any model. You've all written prompts in ChatGPT before. Prompting in the context of an agent or a workflow is slightly different for 2 reasons. The first reason it's different is because it's happening as part of a flowchart, you need to reason about the inputs and outputs. What data does the AI need to do its job? And what is the AI going to produce that it's going to go into the next step of the flowchart? So you'll see in relay.app, we have a big focus on your inputs and your outputs, in addition to just the prompt. And then second, this is a one-shot thing that's happening automatically. In ChatGPT, you have a lot of latitude because you're having an interactive conversation. In this case, we need to write a pretty comprehensive prompt right at the beginning because it's going to run automatically on behalf of us behind the scenes. So I'm going to start writing a simple prompt. Don't worry about typing with me because I'm going to paste it in the chat and then you can paste it into your prompt box. So just watch what I'm doing for now. I'm going to say, given a set of LinkedIn posts from our main competitor's CEO, please write a rich text report that includes the following. 1, which of their posts got the most engagement and why? Engagement and why? What are they focused on as a company? Yeah, that's good enough. Let's keep it simple for now. We're just doing a demo here. It doesn't need to be perfect. So let me paste that into the chat. And I'll give everyone 10 seconds to paste that in before I proceed. But give me a thumbs up when you've got that pasted into your prompt box. So now let's make sure our inputs and outputs are right. What I see on my screen is I see a little chip that says posts here. I'm guessing that you don't see that. The reason for that is that's a feature that we haven't launched yet, which is that is a feature that's trying to automatically infer which inputs from the workflow the AI will need access to do this job. So you can see that because in the prompt I referenced posts, and because my previous step 2, returned the list of posts, the AI was smart enough to say, yeah, you got to attach the posts as input to this step. We haven't launched that yet, so you don't have that. So you're going to need to select the posts manually. And so the way you're going to do that is you're going to click data from previous steps, that blue button at the bottom left of the prompt box, and then you're going to click on the posts from step 2. That little 2 in front of posts, that means it came from step 2. And yeah, Luis, you'd put the same exact prompt that you'd put into ChatGPT right into the relay experience, and it's going to run automatically on your behalf. So can everyone give me a thumbs up when you've got posts attached and as a chip like mine? And our default model is GPT 4.1, and that would be a totally fine model for this use case. Just for the demonstration, I'm going to show you how to change the model. So let's say you want to use Claude 3.5 Sonnet instead. You would click GPT 4.1, you would hover over Anthropic, and then you'd select Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Now, last but not least, we need to specify the outputs. In the top right, you see a section called Output, where for me it says expected response text, format rich text. Can you give me a thumbs up if it says that for you as well? What we try to do is based on your prompt, we try to automatically infer what output you're likely to want. And so you can see that I wrote my prompt in a pretty deliberate way saying, please write a rich text report, because I knew that was going to get the right form of output. If instead of a rich text report, you wanted a set of 10 individual fields to put into a spreadsheet, you would say, please output the following: column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, and then it would automatically infer the relevant structure there. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to retitle this AI step, because if you have multiple steps, AI steps in a workflow, having them all called prompt 3.5 Claude 3.5 Sonnet is going to be confusing and hard to read. So do you see where it says prompt Claude 3.5 Sonnet at the top? Just double click on that and change it to write report. And then I'm going to leave this on screen for 10 more seconds. Give me a thumbs up when your AI step looks exactly like mine. Yes, auto-generated output should be selected by default, and you should keep that selected. If you wanted to select it manually, you can easily flip expected response to text and then format to rich text. So you can do it manually too. It's just a little easier to do it automatically. Okay, so with that, we're done with our AI step. We're almost done with the full workflow. Just one more step. We're going to press the plus button again. You're going to see the step menu pop out from the right again. You are going to type send email. I'm going to leave this on screen for a few seconds. Type send email. And you are going to click send email to yourself. When you send an email to yourself, it is going to ask you for two things: the subject of the email and the body of the email. In the subject of the email, I'm going to write LinkedIn analysis report on Wade. You can call it whatever you want to call it. And I want to add one more thing to this subject line, because this is going to run every week. So I want to have the date in there so I can disambiguate which week it was sent. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to pull in the date as a variable. So you see on the right side of the subject box, when you're in that text box, there will be a blue button, a blue plus button. Click that. Once you click that button, the third item down will be current date / time. Click that. So now you're going to have something that looks like mine, where you'll have the part of the title, the subject that you wrote. I wrote LinkedIn analysis report on Wade. Then you'll have dash, and then the current date and time. I want to do one more little thing, which is like, I'm very particular about the way dates are formatted. It's a real pet peeve for me when dates are formatted in a way that's not readable for me. So I'm going to click current date time. I'm going to click format date time as, and I'm going to then scroll down to my favorite date format, which, because I'm American, is 2/20/2025, like month, day, year. Then I'm going to hit save. You can format the date however you want, or you don't need to reformat it. I'm just OCD about stuff like that. Then the last thing we need to do is we have an empty email body right now. We need to put something in that email body. We need to put something specific in that email body, which is the AI output of step 3, which is the report that we asked our AI to write based on those LinkedIn posts. So if you click into the body field, you'll see there's a data button, a blue data button just to the bottom right of that text field. Click it. Then hover over step 3, write report, and click AI output. I'll pause here for 10 seconds. Give me a thumbs up when you've got a step that looks like mine. You've got a subject line. Yours doesn't have to be quite as elaborate as mine with the date formatting. And then most importantly, your body includes the AI output. So congratulations. If you've never done this before, you just built your first AI agent. Oh, and Sriram, good point about the UI. Many AI steps have multiple outputs, so we have sort of a drop-down pattern where you can hover and select the right output. In this case, it's a little unnecessary because there's only one. So yeah, congratulations. You just built your first AI agent. Some people on LinkedIn will blast me and say that that's way too simplistic or not a true agent, but I don't really care. It's really useful and pretty cool. So now let's run it, and I'll show you the thing in action. So at the top middle of your workflow, you'll have a little red on-off toggle, and just above that, you'll have a button called Start a Test Run. Can you click that button, Start a Test Run? Then after you click Start a Test Run, can you click Start Now? And then you'll see what's happening. Just watch my screen for the moment. You're now seeing what the AI is doing as it's going. It's checking. It's going to fetch the LinkedIn post right now. This will probably take 20, 30 seconds. Then it's going to write the report, and then it's going to send an email to me, and we're going to be able to see that step by step. First, a question from John. If I want to monitor 5 people on LinkedIn, I have to create 5 agents on Relay. Yes. Not necessarily. The way I would do it, if I wanted to follow multiple profiles, is I would create a spreadsheet with all the profiles I want to follow, and then I would use a scheduled batch trigger to fetch for each profile. So I'd have a single workflow, but it would run for multiple people. And John, I'm happy to help you set that up. Test runs will show you how many credits they would have cost, but they won't actually deduct from your credits. Okay, Andrew is getting an error, I'm guessing from the AI step. I have a hypothesis, Andrew, but I want to first see if mine completes successfully. Actually, this is taking kind of a while. So, Andrew, my hypothesis is in your AI step that you don't have any posts linked at the bottom left. So can you go into your AI step and make sure you have data from previous steps and then posts selected? Okay, so it finally got Wade's LinkedIn posts, and now it's writing the report. Looks like some of you are ahead of me. That's awesome. Okay, mine finished. It wrote the report, and you can see that this run would have taken 34 AI credits. So again, 34 AI credits, you get 500 for free per month. So if you run this 4 times a month, you could do this for 3 people on our free tier, basically. And so let's see what this email looks like. Based on the LinkedIn posts provided from Wade, here's an analysis. His most engaging posts, setting a new standard at Zapier, a controversial nature of making AI fluency a requirement, and then their Anthropic Claude integration. So company focus areas, AI integration and innovation, product development, business growth, workforce development. This is decent. It's not amazing. If I wanted to make it amazing, I would go through and edit the prompt more and really call out, Oh, how did I see that? Sorry for blazing through that too quickly. Let me share my screen again. To see the output, you can just click. You see where it says send email to yourself? Just click on that, and then it'll pop up the output of that completed step. Everyone, was that? Give me a thumbs up if yours ran successfully and you were able to see that. Awesome. And you'll also have it in your email, so you can just check your email, and it should be the top item there. And so this is another thing I mentioned, like it's not set and forget. I would want to go through and modify my prompt to make sure it's really calling out, really pulling out the essence of what I care most about. And Sriram, check your promotions folder or your updates folder. It may have gone there. Okay, so with that, we just built, ran, tested our first AI agent. Some would call it simplistic. I would call it pretty easy to build and pretty useful, but your mileage may vary. With that, I think we have a few minutes for questions. So hit me with anything on your mind.
Hi, can you explain the synthesis use case? I didn't understand the concept.
Yeah, so in essence, this use case that we just built is to some degree synthesis, because we're giving the AI a set of LinkedIn posts, in particular the 5 most recent posts, and we're asking the AI to create a combined analysis across all of them. So when I say synthesis, I typically just mean you're putting in a list of objects, a list of emails, a list of posts, a list of documents, and you're asking the AI to identify patterns or combine information across all of them.
So what's the difference between summarization and synthesis? Like, it's like a gray area, but like
yeah, they're similar. To me, the difference is summarization is there's a single long artifact, and I want to have a shorter version of that long artifact with just the key points. Synthesis to me means I'm combining disparate things and pulling them together into some insights. It's semantics. If you want to call all this summarization, I wouldn't argue with you. But for me, it's helpful to split those two out.
Got it. And why you didn't speak about voice as a modality when you were talking about modalities? Just curious.
To me, voice is an implementation detail of the chatbot modality, where it's a live interactive session. You're talking back and forth. Whether you choose to type that in text or talk it in voice, I think it's the same fundamental interaction pattern and class of use cases.
Got it.
But yeah, for some people, text is more convenient, and for some people, voice is more convenient. Okay, let me just quickly check the questions in the chat first, and then we'll come back to live questions. Okay, if it needs a human approval, where do we do this? Let me quickly show you the 2 types of human in the loop capability that we have. I'll share my screen again for this one. So there are 2 ways you can add a human in the loop approval. One is you could add a human review directly into the AI step where it writes the report. And so if you click into write report, do you see this in the bottom right under behavior, the option where it says should a person review the output? If you change that to yes, what's going to happen is when the AI has done a draft, it's going to send you a notification over either email or Slack and say, hey, I did my draft. And you're going to have 3 options: approve, edit manually, or ask AI to refine. And then you'll give the AI a follow-up prompt and say, oh, can you focus more on this, or can you focus more on that? That's if you want to have this sort of iterative experience of going back and forth with the AI as it produces the content, kind of ChatGPT-like. The second thing you can do is you can have a dedicated human in the loop step where you would have to approve the output before continuing. And so those are the two mechanisms for human in the loop approval. In both cases, they send you notifications over email or Slack. For simple one-click actions, you can take action directly in Slack. But if it's anything where you need to like type or interact, you got to come into the relay UI to do that. Question, Andrew. Do you have a directory of effective prompts? We are working on a gallery. I can share it with you in the chat here. It's relay.app/gallery. It has only about 60 templates right now. We really want to get that number up into the hundreds as soon as possible. And so if you have any requests of a particular use case that you want us to make a gallery template for, just email me and I'll make a template for you and put it up in our gallery. Can we pull from multiple feeds? Yes. This would be a slightly more advanced workflow construction. I think I was mentioning this in response to John's question earlier, where you would want to create a separate spreadsheet or Notion or Airtable with the list of accounts that you want to pull from. And then you would use what's called a batch trigger to run a workflow for each element of each element in that record, in that spreadsheet or table. I have some videos online about how to do that, but it's a little more involved than we could do in the 15 minutes we had here. Does relay.app support multiple agents with orchestration? Yes. So any workflow can call any other workflow, or you can create sequences or subflows that can be called from many workflows. These are advanced features. And so you can get very, very far without, without using those. But once you get to the point where you have 250, you're going to want to have some modularity and some cross-agent interaction. Could a deterministic workflow classify as an agent, let's say if we didn't use this element, but extracted some information in a parameterized way? I'm not sure I fully understand the question, Sriram, but yes. Instead of writing a synthesized report, you could just extract out some information from the LinkedIn post or the LinkedIn profile. And if you didn't want to use AI at all, you could just have the email to yourself include the last LinkedIn post. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question, Jacob?
Yeah, go ahead, Luis.
I have a workflow that triggers after a call, then updates a spreadsheet, then sends a draft email to me for my follow-up. Would you split that in terms of like the different agents you're building? Are you splitting tasks like that? Like, are you splitting one task to update a spreadsheet? And are you getting that granular, or is my workflow?
For me personally, I have a single agent that does my meeting follow-up just like you described. It does both those things. It drafts the email and updates the CRM. The reason I would split it out modularly, if I found myself realizing that I always want a follow-up email, but I don't always want to modify the CRM, then I might split those. But in that point, I would probably just keep it a single workflow with a path, because it's still only, what, a 5-6 step workflow. I don't think you need to split that.
Got it. And one more really quick here. I ran into an issue that I think I just fixed using AI asking what went wrong, but I'm still trying to understand it. Basically, the transcript was too long, and I had to like split it up, formatter. I used like a formatter. No, is that like common because the transcript needs to be a certain size?
It's getting less common as model context windows are expanding. For anything that involves meeting notes or long documents, I always for Gemini models first, because they have the longest context window and they're best at handling them. And so the first thing I would do if it tells you the context is too long for OpenAI or Anthropic, just switch to a Gemini model. And that, for me, that fixes it 90% of the time.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, another question. Is there an open source version? No, we don't plan to open source. We don't plan to self-host. Our audience, we are not trying to serve developers. We're trying to serve founders and marketers and contractors and bakery owners and less technical folks for whom open source and self-hosting would be very confusing. If you want to have an open source self-hosted version, use Active Pieces or N8N. There are two other products in the space. They're very, very good and more suited for more technical audiences. I know question from Lewis. I know we talked about Fathom and also Notion Integrator. Can Relay copy and paste meetings into Notion and decide where to put it in my Notion database? Yes, super common use case. I've helped many people set that up. Does Relay support OAuth logins for LinkedIn? Yes. So if you want Relay to write LinkedIn posts on your behalf or write comments on your behalf, you would need to OAuth in with your credentials, and it could do those. So for example, like I had this post last weekend that got a lot of comments, like 16,000 comments, and I'm cooking up my reply agent to go reply to all those comments now, and it'll use my actual API credentials. I'm gonna have to split it up because there's like a 500 call per day limit, but I'll figure that out. It's because like I made this post and a bunch of people are commenting like, hey, I haven't received my thing yet. It's like, okay, give me a moment. It'll take me some time to get back to 16,000 comments. Question, from Jeff. What CRM do you use? We use HubSpot as our core CRM once people have signed up for the product or become qualified. And we use Airtable to track people who have engaged with our content in LinkedIn and are kind of like pre-leads. We don't actually use either CRM very much because we're mostly a product-led self-serve company. And so we mostly put data into HubSpot and Airtable such that in the future, if we want to do sales, we could, but it's not an important part of our business model right now. Right now, pretty much everything is inbound and self-serve. And question from Bart, what are the main difference between Relay and Zapier? In general, we see people choose Zapier because Zapier has way more integrations than we do, like 8,000 relative to 150. And Zapier is sort of like, it's the no one got fired for buying IBM product in the space. It's like the more known quantity. People typically use Relay because it's easier to use, it's more AI native, and we have the human in the loop capabilities. It's kind of like the same reason people choose Adio over Salesforce or Linear over Jira. I'm not saying you shouldn't choose Jira or you shouldn't choose Salesforce. There are very legitimate reasons to choose those two products, but that's sort of a similar decision making in those categories compared to in our category. Oh, John. To be clear, like the OAuth doesn't log in every time. You connect your credentials to Relay just like you connect your Gmail credentials or your calendar credentials, and then we just use that stored token on your behalf. Okay. Question release. If I'm working with a client to build an AI workflow for them, would they need access to Relay? The best practice, so we have a bunch of partners who are AI and automation consultants and agencies that build on behalf of clients. The best practice is the customer sets up a workspace, then the customer invites the consultant to the workspace. If that consultant is in our partner program, they get added to the workspace for free. The consultant helps the client build out their workflows with shared connections. And then the client, when they hit a usage tier that requires paying, they would pay, but not up until then. And at some point, typically they remove the consultant from the workspace and they take over on their own, but that's not mandatory. To repeat the point about Gemini, every model has what's called a context window. This is the amount of data you can put in and get out, the size of the inputs and the size of the outputs. You'll see this on their sites where they'll say like, oh, we have a 128K token context window, or we have a 2 million token context window. All that means is it can take bigger data. So Gemini is the model that has the biggest context window right now. So if you have long PDFs, long documents, long transcripts, Gemini is probably the way to go. I don't know in great detail the context windows of other tools like Mistral and some of the less known or more regional LLMs. You'd have to experiment with those yourself. In general, context windows are rarely a problem. They're only a problem if you have like a meeting transcript of a 1-hour meeting. That's when you tend to need the bigger context window. But in my typical use, context window is not a determining factor of which LLM I choose. Sriram, I think maybe we should take that one offline. I can point you to a video that might be useful. Okay, with that, we're about 8 minutes overtime. Thank you all for joining. I hope this was really as fun and valuable for you as it was for me. If you have any other questions, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can email me directly at jacob@relay.app. And I run live Build With Me sessions every Wednesday. And so if you want to get your hands dirty with building more different types of AI agents like this, join us anytime. I build a different use case every week. Those are at events.relay.app. And all of the recordings, and I've recorded like 100 tutorial videos at this point. They're all up on our YouTube channel. It's just like what we did in this session, but for different use cases. Check them out. And please feel free to send me any feedback. I'm here to help.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot, Jacob. This is quite amazing. My biggest takeaway is obviously Relay is extremely simple and easy to use, but the first few slides where you showed the list of things that you can actually automate in your daily life. I think I have to go and relook at what all things I actually do.
Yeah, I really wanted to communicate two things in this talk. Number one, we should all be using this a lot. There's so much power and so much potential. It's here, it's coming. Don't get to be skeptical anymore. Go use it a lot. Find the boundaries for yourself. And then number two, it's not as difficult or scary as some of the pedantic people on the internet would make you think. Like, you can build something really useful in 4 steps in 15 minutes.
Yeah. Quite amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking some time off your Saturday and spending with us. Folks, really appreciate all of you for joining the session. So we will upload the recording on YouTube on Monday. We'll also send out an email. We'll attach Jacob's deck over there, so you have all of those things and the links, whatever is shared on the chat. So we'll have access to all those resources. If you do like what we are actually doing, just talk to, just share it with a few other folks. Would love your support. So, have a great weekend, folks.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.